guys, welcome back. Today we're doing a little bit of brush cutting. We have a pasture field that has been let go for years and years, and it's a real mess. I've been doing some bush hogging with the tractor, and our ground here is so rough that you can't get over very much of it. It's just one of those things. So we spray what we can, bush hog what we can, and I am now going to start trying to do some hand cutting. And I'm going to show you what I'm using for that, and kind of tell you a little bit about them and show you where we're cutting, what this first little section looks like here. When I was a kid, of course, we had a lot more cattle back then. We were milking a lot of cows, and these pastures were a lot easier to manage then. We've had horses on them for years, but horses just don't graze very much, other than the very best. And since I've got just a few head of cattle in here, and they're starting to make a little bit of difference, but it's way too big of a piece of ground for 5 or 6 head of cattle to make much difference at all. It'll take them a while, so I'm kind of going along and just starting to clean up the bigger brush that I can't get a tractor to. So that's what we're doing here for the next several weeks. When I have time, I'm just going to work at it as we go, and just kind of chip away at it a little bit at a time. There'll be an awful lot of this hollow that I can't get to at all until the cattle get some paths, through it to where you can get back in under the brush. We have a big problem with multiflora rose bushes and things like that you can't hardly work through, and a lot of times cattle will make paths through that kind of brush. If you can just get a path through it to where you can work from both sides, that really helps get the underbrush out just a bit. But anyway, I will take the camera here and show you guys what I'm using first, show you what I've done, and then we'll just go to doing a little cutting. Okay guys, these are the tools that I'm using mainly to get through some of this brush. I have a Stihl HT131 pole saw. That's going to do the vast majority of this cutting, and I'm telling you, if you've ever cut very much thick, hairy brush like this, like you're going to see, that's probably the best tool that I've ever found to cut brush with, because you can extend that pole out and kind of stand back out of the way, get back in under that stuff, especially like the multiflora rose bushes, and cut that off, and then pull it out of the way. Oh, it's been a dream. Now I've got a big Echo brush eater, like a weed eater with a blade, that I'll use some, but man, it's not nearly as handy as this pole saw is. And then I have an MS391 Stihl chainsaw for the bigger stuff, but that's way too heavy a saw to get back in to cut brush with. So the bigger trees, and if I need to cut up bigger stuff, that's what I'll use. But those are mainly the two tools that I'll be using. And got my weed eater in the shop right now, so when we get it back, we'll kind of clean up the weeds and very small stuff with it. But for the brush, this is a dream. So if you're thinking about cleaning up very much land that's really thick with brush, consider a pole saw. It's made a big difference. So we're going to get this stuff started up, and you can kind of watch us in action here. Okay, before we get started, I wanted to show you what I have done. I kind of started on it the other evening just to see how it would work. Never used the pole saw for this kind of cutting before, and managed to get this much done in probably 2 hours. But really steep. You can barely keep your footing. I figure I'm about 2/3 of the way up this bank, and basically just kind of cutting it and laying it down, trimming the limbs off of the bigger trees, opening it up. I still want shade in here because the cattle do like to loaf down in here where it's cool along the creek. So we definitely want to keep shade, so I'm leaving some select trees. And those cattle have already been wallering through this. So we get this brush cut, and then we can maintain it after that with the bush hog and the sprayer. So that's the goal. So we've got quite a bit of stuff here yet to cut, and we're going to get started on that, see how far we get. Look here guys, this old Southern Ohio hillbilly tripod. 2 sticks tangled up in a barbed wire fence. You can't beat that.
to wipe away those tears you cried. Someone to hold you neath the darkened sky. Someone to love you more than I.
Okay guys, I was cutting along here and I ran into this. So I guess my video has kind of turned into a little educational video. This is a wild cherry tree. And for any of you guys out there that don't know this, a wild cherry tree is terribly deadly to cattle and goats. If I was to cut this tree and fall it, and those leaves would begin to wilt, it releases a chemical in the leaf similar to cyanide, and a very small handful of wilted wild cherry leaves will kill a cow. My dad was a licensed veterinarian for years, and he got called out on several calls where a small wild cherry tree had fallen over the fence and killed several head of cows. And in some cases, they didn't make it 15 yards. It's terribly deadly. And if you're going to be cutting any brush where you have animals in the lot, I don't think I can do justice to describe what it looks like. It kind of has a smooth dark green leaf, small stems. I don't know if you can tell anything by the bark there, but you need to Google the wild cherry tree, learn it. And in the case of this one, I'm going to go ahead and cut it, but I'm going to get it out of this pasture field. So that is something that you really got to be aware of. I thought I would show you guys that real quick. Okay guys, this here is the finished product for now. So we got her all cut down, and now from here on out it'll be easy to drive up this road and spray down over the bank or bush hog down there on the flat. So when I was a kid, this was all cleared. One more thing I wanted to show you before we head home for lunch is a bush up here that my dad told me about. I didn't know it was here. Of course, it was covered up with brush, but I had him to point it out to me earlier this morning. This bush right here, he claims is a flowering quince. It will have beautiful red flowers on it. And this bush has been here since the very early 1900s. The old red barn there is where my family originally moved to, and they had a cabin somewhere in the in the area of that mineral feeder there. An old log home. Moved here in 1903, and he claims that this bush has been here ever since they moved here. So you can do the math on that. A lot of years. At least that long. Probably was maybe left here from the previous owner. But anyway, we cleaned up everything around it. So we got her out in the open here now where it can get plenty of sun. The back side of it there was about to die, but it's going to be fine now. Anyway, I'm ready for lunch. Thank y'all for watching. I will catch up with you on the next video.